With Figma Sites, you can design and publish your entire website all from within Figma. No code, no dev, no complicated stack. Just drag, drop, design, and go live. So let's dig in, and I'm going to show you how all of this works. It's super simple, and you're going to love it. This is an outtake from my longer Figma Sites course on moonlearning.io, where I teach about UI design, Figma, and how to get from designing into building real products. But let's start at the very beginning. The Figma Sites interface. So this is what you see more or less when you're opening your file. Now let's zoom out a little bit. You can use Command and minus and Command and plus to zoom, or you can simply use your mouse keys. So these are our canvases. So this is our home, and you will always start off with a home. That's like basically the home page that's later going to open. And usually what it shows you will be a desktop and a mobile. This could also change over time. And I recommend that you click on the little plus button up here, and you also add a tablet. And actually, if you hit Shift and 2, then you get a really nice full view of this. So before we dive in designing, let's have a look at what's happening around here, like the options we have in this view. So on the left-hand side, you have your layers panel. So that means you see everything that's going on the canvas. So right now you can see we have one web page. You can add more. We're going to do that later. And you can see here the home and then the details. So we have these 3 breakpoints, and you can also see what's on them. Right now we have no content. Let's just add anything randomly. So for example, let's just add sort of just a circle here. And now you can see that this was added to all of them. So this was added to the desktop, the tablet, and let's say on the mobile, we could move it individually. And let's say we don't want this element on the mobile, we just want it on the desktop and the tablet. Now, if we hit delete, you can see that this would just be hidden because this is the same screen. So things would always be present everywhere, but you can show and hide them to your liking. If you take it off on the desktop, then it's going to be taken off on any other breakpoint. So later on, you're going to find the publish button here as well. We're going to learn in detail how to publish our page. It's super easy. Then over here, you have this one where with insert, you have blocks and you have libraries. So blocks, this is like sort of pre-made elements by Figma. So let's just grab a hero. And if you drop it on your desktop element, then you can see it's already set up for all of your other screen sizes as well. So this is really handy, and you can of course alter this to your liking. Then we also have libraries. We're going to learn how to connect our own library. So that's going to look like these blocks over here, but we will just make our own, and I'll show you how to make breakpoints and everything. Then over here you have a search, so you can search any element. Then we have our make. So this is really exciting. Here we can add code elements. Again, I'm going to show you all of these in details. And here you already get a preview. Figma is bringing a CMS right now at the moment of recording. This is still in progress, but I'm going to add this as soon as it's ready. And then over here we have some settings. So this is where you're going to set like favicons and preview and information about your page. Again, we're going to run through all of this. So per default, always have your file open. So at the bottom here, you have your tools. So you can either let's just pick some text. So you can just add the text here to your liking. And then as soon as you grab an element, so this could be text, or let's just add our circle here again. If you grab it, then on the right hand side, you can see the properties. So for example, you could change the text size, you could change the font and all of that, and colors, and any property of whatever element you grab over here. So the best way is just to go through here. So you have different shapes, you have drawing tools, you have images, you have text, and you also here you can add new pages. Again, we're going to do that separate, and make, we're going to explore that in a separate video. On the right hand side panel, you don't only have the properties, like right next to the properties, you also see the interactions. So this is like you can add hover effects, connect pages, and again, we're going to run through all of this in more detail. So let's start with setting up our first page with Figma Sites. And the easiest way to get started and still have a lot of control over your layout is probably to use blocks. So click on the little plus sign, and then you're going to see the preset Figma blocks. So there are preset pages, but we have better control over the layout if we're using the actual block. So you can see there's navigation, heroes, features. So let's start with a navigation, and let's just take any navigation and then just drag it over. And the important part is you only need to drag it onto the desktop version, and then it's going to create all the breakpoints for you automatically. That's like baked into those blocks already. Let's actually turn this into a little portfolio. So I'm going to go to heroes. I'm just going to drag over a hero section. And then from features, I'm going to add some text, something like this, describing my skills, maybe a picture like something about. And then what I also want in the very end is some sort of footer. So that should be navigation. I'm just going to take this very simple footer here. Now, what you can see is they're not in the exact order. For example, I want the footer further down. So you can simply just drag it, or you can also use your arrow keys, and then you can move those whole blocks around to your liking. And notice how I just need to change it in the desktop, and then all other breakpoints will follow. Now, anything I would delete in my desktop, for example, if I take rid of that whole block, that would happen to all the breakpoints. But note one little thing. So let's say I'm here, I'm having these buttons. And so let's just take the secondary. Let's say we're taking the secondary off. Now here you can see this is the desktop, and have a look what's happening here. If I take the secondary off, then this is going to completely disappear. So this is where you can really choose if an element should disappear entirely. But you could also say, I just want this button on my main desktop version, but for example on my tablet, for whatever reason I don't want this. If you would then hit delete, then it would simply hide it. And that's totally fine, just be aware of this. You could also hide entire sections. So let's say you don't want this section on desktop. It would look in the end like it's gone, but note how it will always be here in your layers panel. So before we alter the content, let's actually look what our page looks like in a dynamic setup. So what it will look like in the browser. There are different ways that you can get a preview. You can either click on this play button here, or you have the play button over here. With this little arrow, you can choose if you want inline preview or a whole page. So let's just click it, and then you're going to get an own preview. And see, that's really nice. There's some animation already set in here. So you can resize it, then you can see the different behavior, and you can also scroll through this really nicely. Now, if we go back here, what you can also do is you can use the shortcuts, and you get it if you forget it here. So shift and space. And if I press shift and space, then I get this handy in-file preview. So it's a little nicer to quickly work on this. When using the preset blocks, then Figma is really smart. And so if we click on here, you can see that it already set up the so-called auto layout for you. So it added a vertical layout. You can see that we see the full page. If you ever don't see the full page, then you need to go here in the height and make sure this is set to hug. And all our blocks are already set up to something called fill the container in the resizing. So to get started, that is great. So everything is set up and we're going to take it from there. Just be aware that later when we're adding elements or you're changing things, we need to understand this layout section a little better to have full control over our layout. But for our first simple example, everything is working the way we want it, so we can now add our content. And this is really quite simple. You just select the content on the desktop and then you change it to your liking, and this will be reflected on all breakpoints. So you can just go bit by bit and then just add the text to your liking. And for example, I want to get rid of these buttons. Actually, I don't need them, so let's get rid of this. Now, if we want to add our images, then we can simply select any frame or any shape, and then via the fill menu, you click on fill, upload from computer, and you can then select any image. There is a bulk import function in Figma, so you can press Shift, Command, and K, and then you can literally just select the images and then just drop them wherever you want. The only problem right now is that there is a little bug, so it doesn't add them to the breakpoints currently. I hope this will be solved by the time you're using this. For now, I'm just going to do this manually. So I'm just going to speed that up for you. Now, if you want to shuffle the elements around a little bit, you can also do this. Simply select the image and then with the arrow key on your keyboard, you can move them. And again, you can see that this is reflected everywhere. And I just went ahead in the background and already updated all of this text here. You can completely do that to your liking. Another little thing that you might actually want to do is it looks a bit flat all in white. So you can just select certain blocks and then just click on the fill button in case you don't see a fill color. And then I'm just going to give it a slight tint of a really light gray just for a little bit of depth. And just like this, if we're pressing our play button, you can see that you have a really lovely and working first web design ready in no time. And by the way, all of these lovely pictures I'm using are from lumi.ai. You can find a lot of free images as well as upgrade to a pro plan and get fantastic AI generated images for your designs. So now let's add a subpage. So what I want to happen is I want to click on one of these portfolio images and then get some more information on a separate page. So what I need to do is I need to add that page. So we click on adding a web page. You can also do it up here. And then what you get is this sort of page. So we just have the desktop, but we need all the same breakpoints. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the plus button and we're going to add a tablet. And we want to add a mobile for full control. You can rename the page. So I'm just going to call this Cafe. So I'm going to start with my blocks again. And this time what I want is I want some features. So I want something that is sort of a lot of images or something like this. So I'm going to drag this over again, drop it on the desktop, and then it's going to just duplicate it on all your breakpoints. And I also want a navigation, but I already changed the text in this navigation here a little bit for the contact me. So I'm going to use the same. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to paste it on the desktop, pasted it down here. So I'm going to move it with my arrow keys up. And now I have the same navigation on all of them. And then maybe we just want to add, I don't know, a little bit of text or something like this. So down here, you can see there are some text fields. I'm not sure. I think this here will be all right. So we can add some more information if we wanted to. And of course, our footer, I'm going to use the same one here, and that copied just fine at the bottom. So now before we jump into the content, let's actually connect it right away. So in the right hand side property panel, you have design and you have interactions. Click on interactions and now select the element. So in this case, our picture that you want to connect. You have to deep click until you really got the picture. And then you see these little bubbles appearing. Any bubble, just keep it down with your mouse and then just connect it. And you're going to see that it connects from all the different breakpoints. And that's pretty much it. Now we want to connect back. So in this case, I would love a breadcrumb, but there isn't one in my block. So I'm going to use here the main logo to connect back. So this is maybe something that later I'm going to fix. So I'm going to connect both of these here and I'm going to select this and just connect back. Okay, so let's have a look if that is working. So I'm going to use my shortcut Shift and space bar. And so now you can see here, this is working really nicely. It's still responsive and everything working. And so if we now hover over this, we can see we can click it and then we get to our new page. And if we click on the logo, we get back. Okay, great. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to add my content here. So jump back to design and I'm actually going to speed that up in the background for you. So let's just add the text I already wrote. And I already add a little bit of subtext here as well, which I'm going to copy. And again, remember, we always just copy in desktop. And now we just need to add our images. And I'm just going to speed that up a little bit for you here in the background. And here we go. So we have our page with subpages ready. Let's just play the whole thing. So you can see lovely, all responsive. We jump to our subpage, which is also responsive. And we can always go back. So let's customize our design a little bit and add some of our own elements to this. So you can see over here, I have a large picture, which I want to add because if I have a look right now in features, I don't really just get one large hero image. So what I do is I'm just going to drag this over and I'm going to drop it in here. And you can see that I can add it, but it doesn't behave the way that my preset blocks do. Now, if you want to add customized elements, then you need to know a little bit about layout. I'm just going to show you the basics, but I highly recommend that if you are not familiar with Figma's auto layout feature, that you jump into one of my other courses where I go through auto layout in Figma in depth. It's really a feature that's very worth knowing. If you're however just playing around a little bit with sites, you might even get away with just a few tricks that I show you. So first thing that we need to do, if you select this block, for example, you can see here that in the width, it is set automatically to something called fill the container. So that means it's going to take up all the available space. Right now, if we select our image, this is not set up to fill the container. You can see here in layout, if we drop this down, you can see that this has a fixed width. So just jump to fill the container. You can see also here we have this one set, which means that we're keeping the aspect ratio of this image. And now you can see that this fills the container everywhere. So don't do this. Let's just go back to what we had previously. You might be tempted to just resize this, but then what happens, it looks good in your static view, but if you then have a preview, you can see that this is actually not going to behave with your design anymore. If you want a fixed element, this is fine. Otherwise, make sure that you set this to fill the container. Now we can customize this a little further. You can see here that we have a corner radius of 16. So we can just grab our main image and we could also set this to a corner radius of 16. Now I added another element. So this is a little breadcrumb because remember, it's a bit strange that I have to click on the logo to go back. I want this to be more obvious on how to navigate this. So the thing is, right now, this is only a frame and I added some text. In Figma, every element we have, and in blocks they set this up for you, should be set up in auto layout to be working. Again, if you're a total beginner, this might be overwhelming and I highly recommend that you familiarize with auto layout. I'm just going to show you this quickly and assume that you understand a little bit of auto layout. So I'm selecting this and I'm going to hit Shift and A. So this created an auto layout. You can see this is happening here. So this is going into this direction. I can see the distance here. I'm going to make this a multiple of 8 actually. I can add some padding and so on. And now I'm also going to create the outer frame. I'm going to select this. And you can see here, this is a frame. So I can also select this here, or I can press Shift and A. This is my shortcut. And then I'm creating this auto layout. So now I'm just going to pull this out. So this is the size of my parent frame, 1280. And I can now, for example, add some padding here, top and bottom. So I'm just going to have the bottom one 24, the top one, I think 24 as well. And now the sides, I'm actually going to check what's happening here in my navigation. So my navigation is telling me 64. So I'm going to use 64 for left and right as well. If this is a bit overwhelming when you're new to Figma, you might also just get away with simple elements like this, just layouting them and putting them inside there. So what we're going to do now, we're going to drag this over here and I'm just going to drop it on here. You can see it dropped it everywhere. Again, see how it doesn't resize properly because what we have to do, just as with the others, we have to select the entire element and then in the width, set this to fill the container. Now, there is a more structural way to set this up, but right now we're just doing this a bit manually for a one-off. So you can see here that we have different padding. So here we have a padding of 32. So I'm just going to do that on this element here as well. And then for the mobile, we have 24. And I'm also going to set this up 24. So here you go. So what I don't like is this huge distance here. Actually, one thing I want to do is I want this nice little gray background here as well. So I'm going to select this. You can click on the fill color. I'm going to take this little picker and I'm just going to pick the background color I have over here. So I have a nicer overview. So this is nice, but this is really large here, this distance. So I can also alter this here and I can just go down here a little bit and make this a little smaller. And if I wanted to, I can also use this and maybe add a little bit here so I have more room if I want this to be clicked. So all I need to do now is I'm going to select this home over here. I'm going to jump to interaction again. And I'm just going to make sure that when I click on this, this is jumping back home. So let's try this out. So here we have our design. We go to the subpage. This is looking lovely. Let's see if our image is resizing. Yes. And then if I click on home, I'm going back home. With this intro, you should be able to now publish your first basic page. If you want to go a step further, then check out my full Figma Sites course on moonlearning.io, where I'll cover the more advanced topics. I'll show you how to publish with a free URL or your custom domain. We'll embed videos and maps, and even create custom code blocks with AI using Figma Make. I'll tell you about animation, any new developments around Figma Sites, and we'll even build our own component library with our custom components, colors, and responsive typography. I also have a free starter library called Moonblocks.io. It's basically a free Figma file, which you can then link to Figma Sites. Don't worry, there are videos and instructions in there for free as well. And you can then play around with all of these more complex settings and make it yours. The link is also in the description below. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. There is more coming. This is a course by moonlearning.io.